Hello students, welcome to this online course of engineering mechanics. So today we are going to start a new topic which is shear stress. So in the previous lecture we have seen the normal stress. Now let us see how this shear is different from the normal stress. So when two equal and opposite parallel forces not in the same line act on two parts of the body, then one part tends to slide over or this phenomena can be termed as shear from the other across any section, and the stress developed is termed as shear stress. So you can see from this, so this is any body, so we are having a force which is parallel to the transverse axis. Okay, so if we are checking here, so we have cut this body from this plane, and now we are checking. So this P is acting here, so for equilibrium equal and opposite force should be acting, and similarly here also it will act. So this force which is parallel to this surface, parallel to the transverse direction, will be termed as shear force, and the stress due to this shear force will be termed as shear stress. I hope it is clear. So it is a parallel, it is a tangential force or tangential stress. Okay, so if P is the force applied and A is the area being sheared, then the intensity of shear stress is given by P by A, load upon area, or if it is for a smaller area and for very small force, it will be dP by dA. So shear stress is always tangential to the area over which it acts. Okay, this you have to take care. Now let us see stress in 3D, how the 3D stress diagram will look like. So in actual practice, every body which we are seeing, it is 3D object. Okay, so we have to have some idea about 3D stresses also. A structural element or a machine component is subjected to complex loading system requiring stresses to develop in all three directions. Okay, so this is any body. So we are taking the reference axis X, Y and Z. Okay, so let us this is very small particle, so we are assuming it as a cuboid. Okay, it is a cube. So let me just show you how this is your stress matrix. Any stress can be expressed is in this form. So sigma xx, tau, sigma is for normal stress, tau is for shear stress. Okay, so sigma xx, tau xy, tau xz, tau yz, sigma yy, tau yz, tau zz, tau zy and tau zz. So the diagonal elements are termed as the normal stress, and remaining all the elements are termed as shear stress. Okay, so let us see how it is actually acting on a real body. So before that, let me just tell you the convention. What is this xx or xz or x? So if any stress is like this, and it is like tau sigma iz, so I is representing the plane direction which is perpendicular to that plane, and j will be representing the direction. Okay, so this is the stress on ith plane in jth direction. So this means if this is sigma xx, this means it is acting in x direction on a plane which is perpendicular to x plane, x axis. Okay, so you can see here this is sigma xx is here, so this is x axis, so this plane is perpendicular to x axis. Clear? So if in this plane the stress is along x axis, then it will be xx. If it is along y-axis, then it will be xy, and if it is along z-axis, so it will be xz. Similarly, here you can see a plane which is perpendicular to y direction, and along y it will be y, along z it will be yz, and along x it will be yx. So this is the just way to represent the 3D stresses. I hope it is clear. In the coming lecture you will see why we have learned this. Now let me just explain you the various modulus of. So first one is modulus of elasticity, and second is modulus of rigidity. For elastic bodies, the ratio of stress to strain is constant and is known as Young's modulus or the modulus of elasticity. So we have seen that stress is proportional to strain. This is our Hooke's law. So when this proportionality will be removed, it will come as a constant. So this is E. So it is a constant, that means the ratio is constant, and this is termed as Young's modulus of elasticity, or simply modulus of elasticity. So for elastic bodies, the ratio of stress to strain is constant, and it is represented by E. E has the same unit as the stress because the strain has no unit. It is a dimensionless quantity. The materials that maintain this ratio are said to obey Hooke's law, because if the body is not obeying a Hooke's law, or material is not obeying the Hooke's law, we cannot use this directly. Or what is Hooke's law? It is stated that within elastic limits, strain is proportional to the stress producing it. Clear? Now the Young's modulus is the stress required to cause unit strain. If strain is 1, then what is your elastic modulus? It will be equal to the stress. Similarly, for elastic material, the shear strain is found to be proportional to the applied shear strain within the elastic limit. So tau is your shear stress and phi is your shear strain. Now we have seen our stress. Let us see what is strain. So the deformation of a body under a load is proportional to its length. The elongation per unit length of the body is known as longitudinal strain or simply strain, and is denoted by epsilon. It is a Greek symbol. So what is, if a body is, if this is some body and we are pulling it, so it will go for some extension. Okay, so this is your delta L. So this was L naught. So the ratio of delta L to the original length is your strain. Okay, so it is a dimensionless quantity. Now what is shear strain? So this is your longitudinal strain, but shear strain will be parallel to the transverse axis. Shear strain is defined as the change in the right angle of the element measured in radians. So what is happening here? When some body was like this, okay. So what we have done, we have put here the shear stress. So what is going to happen? This body will distort like this. So this was the original angle, 90 degree, but now this is distorted. So this is phi. This is your shear strain. Clear? Now let us discuss a small topic, which is deformation of a prismatic bar. So for design engineer, you have to have knowledge of the deformation, that the force which is being exerted on a body should not cause a very huge deformation. That the deformation which is being caused due to the force should not exceed the allowable limit. So for that you have to have knowledge of the deformation. So in the previous section we have seen, so if this is a bar and it is extended by this delta, okay, so this is your deformation. So this is your delta, but this is also equal to sigma upon E. Okay, this means sigma by E is equal to delta L upon L, but sigma is what? P by A is sigma. So from here you will get PL upon A is your deformation. Okay, so this already I have derived. This equation I was talking about. So delta is PL upon A. Okay. So now this is your deformation, axial deformation. But what is the principle of superposition? The principle of superposition states that if a body is acted upon by a number of loads, okay, if on a body there are various forces F, P1, P2, P3, P4 on a different segments of a body, then the net effect on the body is the sum of the effects caused by each load independently. So what you are going to do, you will first calculate the deformation with respect to P1, P2, P3 independently, and finally you will add it. So this is your principle of superposition. Thus each segment can be considered for its equilibrium. This is done by making a diagram of the segment along with various forces acting on it, and this diagram is generally referred as free body diagram, which we have learned in very detail in our first unit. So the principle of superposition is applicable to all parameters like stress, strain and deflection, but here we are mainly focusing on deflection. However, it is not applicable to materials with non-linear stress-strain characteristics which do not follow Hooke's law. If the material is not following Hooke's law, we can also use this principle of superposition. Now let us try to solve a problem. A circular steel bar of various cross section is subjected to a pull of 800 kilonewton. So determine the extension of the bar. So what we are going to do, we will be just adding all the deformation independently. So delta A to F will be delta of AB plus delta of BC plus delta of CD plus delta of D and finally delta of EF. So delta here P is same for all the members. So P is your and E is a material constant. So our equation is what? Delta is what? Delta is PL upon A into E. Okay, so the P is same for all and E is same for all. So only L and A will be changing. So P by A we have taken common, and inside the bracket we are having L upon A, L by A for all the different sections. So here you can see L is, this is 400 for we are taking for AB. So area is pi by 4 80 square. This is 300 pi by 4 60 square. This is 500 pi by 4 100 square. This is 300 again pi by 4 60 square. This is 400 again. This is pi by 4 into 80 square. Clear? So finally you will get your answer. Just add these values. So here is your answer, which is how much? This is coming out to be 1.708. Okay, so now let us solve one more problem. A bar made up of two square sections, one of steel and other of aluminium. The bar is acted upon by a compressive force P. Determine the value of P if the total decrease in the length of bar is 0.3 mm. You have to take steel, E of steel is 205 GPa and E of aluminum is 75 GPa. So total deflection we have been given as 0.3. So total will be how much? Deflection in steel plus deflection in your aluminum section. So here this total is 0.3. So delta is how much? Delta steel plus delta aluminum. It is given as 0.3. So just put all the values here. You will get PS 48.27. Now let us solve one more problem. A steel bar of 225 mm diameter is acted upon by a force as shown. What is the total elongation of the bar? So in this type of problem, what we have to do? We have to first, this diagram is given. So what we are going to do? We will check for a individual section like AB, BC and CD. Okay. So here you have to check how we are getting the forces. So this section 60 kilonewton was acting, and at this point total left force is 20 kilonewton. So for this body to be in equilibrium, 60 kilonewton will act here, and this 2 should be such that net force should be towards left and that to be 20 kilonewton. Okay, so how we are going to do? By applying this 60 plus 20, how much? 80 towards left. Okay, and or you can start from here. 50 is here, so again 50 we have to apply for to make this in equilibrium. And you can see at this section 30 kilonewton rightward force is required. So this is leftward 50, so rightward to make it plus 30 we have to apply 80 towards the right direction. So after this diagram nothing is there, just write the this deflection for each section and you will get this answer. So this is all for today. We will complete this unit in the next lecture. Thank you.